Very good.
We're good to go, guys.
All right.
All right, Terrence, last Tuesday, Brad and I, when we were on, we decided that maybe we would talk a little bit this week about how we got our new patients when we first started,
Okay.
you know? Because I know there are some guys on here that aren't necessarily new, but still they're still struggling for the new patients, you know?
And it's a
So,
good reminder for
Yeah.
those that work the system in when they started the practice, because the same things that made them successful will keep them being successful. We have a tendency to stop doing the things that we should be doing.
right.
Well, obviously, I mean, so the first thing that's different is, I really only did two things externally. So the yellow pages, which is now defunct, right? And
Yeah,
then,
right.
we had a penny saver that ran every week. So those were the only two external things I did outside of just talking to people in the practice.
Like when you opened, how did you get people in the door the first week, the first month?
Yeah, that really was, I had gone around just within the office complex and introduced myself. So that was 40 offices, tried to also went, just up and down the street, just to businesses, not door to door, just to the businesses, put cards out, those basic things. Um, Also that first few weeks, even though it was a little tedious to have maybe one patient a day.
Yeah.
Uh, just getting my feet wet. I did have a staff person, right? So talking chiropractic, working through procedure with her, etc. And I think we had 12 new patients that first month, all from those external things that I did. So certainly then asking for referrals from that standpoint and working on PVA. So I was not starting with a huge amount of new patients. And in the beginning, it really was just those two external things and then working and asking for referrals inside the office.
When did you ask for the referrals? I mean, like, did you build the ask inside of like your first day, let's call it scripting? Because whatever you were saying, did you build a referral ask inside that first day, second day?
In that first week, right? Always in
Okay.
the first week, uh, you know, what what have I done well, right? Is there anything different we're doing? Can I do better? And nine times out of 10, you're going to get, oh, it's going great, et cetera, et cetera. And then handing, cards out later that evolved to 4 cards. That was my
Yeah.
method. Here's 4 cards, to share with family and friends.
Yeah.
Obviously at that point, free exam and free x-rays. I'll admit that too. We were doing
Me
the
too.
free exam and free x-rays to get that lift.
Pardon me.
When we opened my brother-in-law's office a few years later, then we were fortunate to have the week before his office opened was a health fair in the Columbia Mall.
Hmm.
I think that loaded him up with say 20 new patients that first week. That was the whole, and in turn he probably did no flyers or anything. He did that first health fair, got that going, and then it was probably yellow pages and asking from them. So he was somebody who went from 0 to 212 weeks. I went from 0 to 100. That took 5 months, that first 5 months. So it was very organic and gradual. But then from May to September that first year, we went to 300 a week. So that
Yeah.
next, and that really was never with more than, I was just looking 20, maybe 20 new patients a month. We were just keeping them then,
Yeah, that's right.
right off the bat.
That speaks volume to your PVA and your ability to teach, right? Teach people when they first come in. I always said if I'm going to I'll either lose you in the first 2 weeks or I'll keep you forever.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's well said. Yeah.
And then most of those
And
people I lost would come back sooner or later, right?
correct. Well, too, how, looking back, I'm happy to say that my, uh, recommendations have evolved. In the beginning, they were probably lower, 3 times a week for 4 weeks, twice a
Yeah.
week, 4 weeks, and only then, kind of like my dad had taught me, you weren't
SOP.
surprised people got better, but you were surprised it took longer than you
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
those
Absolutely.
reverse curves or
Yeah.
degeneration or whatever it might be, that these people need more work than you're telling them. And so that, that became easier, and it more confidence and clarity on uh, subluxation and your hands, your ability, those sorts of things, but
Yeah.
constantly engaging the patient, right? Just um, with some level of let's check it. There it is. We got work to do. Chiropractic works. Keep spreading the word. That was
Yeah.
my script forever. And stay focused on that. That I was there to be their chiropractor, not necessarily just their friend. Friendly, not friends, I guess might
Yeah.
be the best way
Yeah.
to describe it. So I think now with new patients, it's probably a little bit more of what sort of social media do you want to use? I would say Facebook or, whatever
All of
animals
it.
out there. Yeah, all of it.
All of it.
Yes. I think with Instagram, for instance, that everybody's trying to be too perfect as opposed to just posting something all the time from the standpoint of it's simple. Hey, here's a patient, kids or young people are better with having their phones in their pockets, but pull it out and just
Yeah.
put it in front of a poster and start telling your story, or talk to a patient, or like you said, Mike, whatever hits your mind that particular day. um, and the phone could be jiggling, it could be moving. I think that's much more organic and much more true to
Yeah.
who you are. So
Well,
if you're a pain practice, then say it, right?
yeah.
Hey, come in, we're going to take care of your pain. Here's our criteria. Here's where we're going to. If you're a brain practice, then say your criteria. If you're a curve, cervical curve practice, say that.
Yeah.
If you're a pediatric practice, say those things. And I think all three of us are family practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, somebody asked about personal injury. I said, well, families get in accidents, don't they?
Accidents. Absolutely. Yeah.
So families have work injuries, don't they? Families have kids, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
A family could be one person or 20 people. So
The difference about our family practices is we're not triaging people to send them someplace else, right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah, we're just taking care of everybody. Now, will we send somebody out if we have to? Yeah, but
Wasn't first on mind. No,
no.
You co-manage
Absolutely
the
not.
patient with it. If they need referral, there's
Sure.
no reason they shouldn't be adjusted too,
Mhm.
unless
Mhm.
there's a contraindication in their
Yep. Yep.
spine. But most cases, people need to be adjusted while they're getting their medical care.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing that I can't get through to some people. Even if I send you someplace else, that doesn't mean you don't come in here and keep your appointments. And that popped in my head, Terrence, when you were talking about 3 times a week for a month, 2 times a week for a month. I always hear, or used to always hear that we're just not seeing the miracles in chiropractic anymore. Well, if you're only seeing somebody once a week, how the hell are you going to see a miracle?
correct. Well,
Right?
who are we to say, if it takes 2 years for that miracle, isn't it
Yeah.
still a miracle? I mean, unfortunately, we're not Christ.
No. No, the
So
one guy can lay hands.
Yeah, I tell
exactly.
people I never change water into wine, and
That's
the only
it.
water that I walk on is frozen.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, having
Correct.
said that, one adjustment changed my brother's life. Ultimately changed my whole family's life, but
Right.
it can happen that way.
Sure.
Is
Absolutely.
that that injury was only 6 days old. It wasn't 6 years old. So,
Well, we
it's
don't think that miracle, that relieving pain isn't a miracle,
right, right,
right? That
right.
we think it has to be restoring hearing,
Yeah, right.
vision,
Now,
or curing cancer, or whatever, those sorts of things.
who's to
And
say that's not happening, right?
correct, exactly. Correct. That is so true.
Yeah,
And the fact that if you have, I don't know, even just let's say half your patients get better. Let's just even lowball it, that 50% get better with what you do, whatever better is, whether that's pain or some organic thing. That why do you think that it's not working on the other 50%?
yeah, right.
It's just not manifesting to them, or whatever you're using. How many, I can remember a patient that always stands out to me, people when we use the travel card and they put their numbers, and we had a number thing, and
Yeah,
I can remember a patient putting down 4s, which for 2 years, and which implied she didn't get any better. And I'm quizzing her. Then finally, I'm like, what's up? Now I find out she's off, 4 medications. She
Hmm.
could, walk better, blah blah blah. And yet she's like, yeah, but my neck still hurts. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, well, I'm good with that,
Yeah,
because I'll take the other stuff all day long.
that's right. That's right.
So,
I don't know. So, when I was in a bit of a different situation than you. When I opened the practice, I had SIG behind me. So I just didn't do Yellow Page and the Penny Saver. I did the Yellow Page, the local Eagle, little uh what we call it, Brad, newspaper, weekly newspaper. That was the biggest thing that worked for me, is I had a quarter page ad in there every other week for 20 years. So people didn't go to the Yellow Pages looking for me. They went to that, they
right.
went to that local paper. But I also, there wasn't a weekend, I don't think, or there wasn't 2 weekends in a row for the first 10 years that I wasn't at a health screening or a damn flea market, or I even rented a kiosk in a mall and had screenings out there, open houses constantly. I had 28 new patients my first week from an open house. I had 68 visits my
Wow.
first week. Yeah. My second week was a little over 100. My third week I dropped. But inside of that first year, I was consistently 180-ish, and then 200 and then 250. In the first 3 years, I was constant, like Brad was also. My first 3 years, I was always at close to 300, 325. Just couldn't break that barrier. But I was still out there. I was at, God, I had to go to the Optimist Club and every club in Dundalk and speak. My uncle was really, I mean, I did so much. You would have thought my numbers should have been higher. Well, he told me they should have been higher.
Well, it's because
But
we didn't have any procedures at the time. We didn't know
I
how
had
to
no
process those
procedures. Yeah.
patients.
So, I would do an open house and get 30 some new patients, and I wouldn't retain, but maybe 40% of them, you know. But then I got some procedure and things changed, and then obviously, like you, Terrence and Brad, also everything became referral at that point. That ad still stayed in the Eagle, that newspaper, but everything became referral.
Yeah,
And
referral,
I did cards like you, Terrence.
yeah, with that, I mean, that just, somebody asked me at our meeting a couple weeks ago about that. I said, then when we were in our, that growth from 400 to 1,000,
Yeah,
then in my opinion, for me, you had to fuel it with a lot of new patients.
you do.
And that was also learning to get faster,
Yeah,
more efficient, whatever terms we might use, both in your, and so same thing, you were losing a lot of these people,
it was.
but they were, probably 75% referrals, and then 25% from, I think at that time, then we had a little telemarketing going
Yeah,
on,
we did some
DRG,
telemarketing.
I don't know if you remember that
Yeah,
company. And but same, I had some sort of print ad going, or flyer once a month, and just asking. But the key thing was, which I think every younger doc can experience, is if you're on fire, people will come to watch you burn. So if you're excited about what you're doing, then everybody was coming to my office. I
that's a
mean,
good way to put it. I just
yeah,
called it momentum. I like your way of putting it.
yeah, they were all coming to my office.
Yeah,
There was no doubt, because I had, we're in, we got my office in the basement, right?
yeah.
My sign is this big, you have to drive around to see it.
You are an enigma, man.
Yeah. So, but we had people come in that would be like sitting out there waiting at the dentist, and they'd come in and go, I gotta come in here to see what the hell's going on in here. I've seen massive amounts of people come in here. They're all frowning. They all come out and they're
Yeah,
smiling. What's going on here? And then
yeah,
they'd
yeah,
sign up to be a patient. So,
yeah,
that's the energy that you should create and want to. And I would say that everybody has a limited window to do that, because it's such an energy thing, and we should have those phases of life, phases of chiropractic.
yeah.
How long can you extend that growth time, and how long can you then kind of keep it, not, I don't want to use plateau, but keep it on that regenerative plane before you then say evolve to where we're at, or,
Yeah.
I'll just say where I think I was from, say, 50 to 60 of, we'll keep the fire going for whomever's coming next,
Yeah, right.
whether that's a son or sons or other associate or, whatever it might be. Because the energy, that energy thing is a big deal,
It is. It is.
as you guys know.
And it's tough, like you alluded to it. It's tough to do as we get older because there's entropy there, right? There's a
Correct.
friction rub, man. It gets harder and harder. Um, if you don't stay disciplined, you don't stay healthy yourself and in shape, the energy just isn't there, right?
Correct.
Got to put energy out to get that stuff back. So,
Correct.
Brad, as far as your practice as you got older in practice, because you probably average what, 28 new patients a month?
Yeah. I was, yes.
So was it just referral internal stuff that you were doing?
Something I got from Patsy
Yeah.
to go back in day. I saw her walking through the Waverly one time, and she goes, "Brad, how many you seen?" And I said, "Oh, about 250." And she goes, "No, how many you seen?"
Yeah, that was early on.
Yeah,
She got me
that's big.
into visualizing,
Okay.
and Sig said the same thing.
Yeah.
I actually saw how my hot seats in my office
Cool.
was filled with people. Everybody was smiling. People were bringing out their credit cards. And we're just having a grand time. And I got my staff to do that too. And it just kind of, we manifested it. It just came to us. What you think about comes about.
It's funny, Lisa and I were talking about that yesterday, but it's a rare breed that can visualize that and then create it, right? You still have to follow through, right?
You have to have the processes and the procedures to do
Yep.
that too. Because one thing I would do is at every reexamination,
Pardon me.
are you pleased with your care? Are you still committed to correcting these subluxations? And who do you know that could benefit from
There you
chiropractic?
go. Who do you know, right? I find or I found that all those years of coaching, when I talk to young doctors about asking for referrals, it confused them. It really did confuse them. Well, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you just ask, right? You don't need this super secret script. Like, I know who do you know that doesn't know what you know about, that's all great, but because somebody gets up off the table, how come you just can't look at them and say, hey, you're doing really well here? How come your wife's not here yet? Or where are the kids? Or,
Right.
I remember when watching you in your office, and patient got up one time, he said, "You haven't sent me anybody in a while. You need to do that."
Yeah, how tough is that? You know?
Yeah,
Although we had a
it's
10-day
as
rule in
simple
the
as that.
office
Yeah.
that always extended further than 10 days. All the new patients, when they came in, they had 10 days to bring in their spouse and kids at no charge.
Right.
Now, if they came in at 12 days, so what? I was just building some,
That's how you get families.
yeah.
Well, we still do that. On the day 2, give them cards for their family and friends to use in
Yeah.
the next 2 weeks for complimentary, right?
Mhm.
Exam and X-rays. Absolutely.
So, it's easy for us to sit here and say that. What do you think the chink in the armor of these guys is that keeps them from doing it?
Fear.
Well, most everybody's afraid of rejection,
Mhm.
and or that they're going to offend somebody, I guess, as opposed to turning it the other way. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no.
Yeah.
Or, I can remember, my armpits are sweating, my voice is shaking, but I still did it
Yeah.
because I was told to do it by people I respected,
There you go.
whether that was my dad or,
Yeah.
a coach I had or a peer, whatever it might be, or fear of failure. How about that?
Yeah.
On my own part, that I would say I was driven more by making sure had a good practice to impress my dad,
Yeah.
my wife, and yeah, that was kind of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to come home to my wife and say, hey, got 5 new patients today, and 4 of them were referrals
Mm-hmm.
that I asked for or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. And, she would give me an attaboy, and that was good. Or to brag about that to my dad. It was pretty simple. Not much more, going on it than that. So what's the worst thing that can happen? And then who are you doing it for? I mean,
Yeah, right.
I'm always a person who does stuff for other people. But the flip side, you either do it for yourself or you do it for others.
Yeah.
Either works. So if you're just trying to impress yourself, then impress yourself. If you're trying to impress other people, impress other people. I
I think
got 20 referrals. Yeah,
I think one's more sustaining than the other, but that's just my opinion.
correct.
You know.
Probably. Yeah. Um, the other thing
Yeah.
with visualization that Brad was talking about, I could never visualize, the, you know, 200 people a day, but I could visualize how many sign-in sheets would be filled.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like we'd be on page 4 or whatever it might be, or 5 of a 7, it's 75 on each sheet, whatever that might look like. I could visualize this, the staff showing me the number, on the stat
Mm-hmm.
sheet. I could experience how I thought it would feel, right? Just the pride of, how you walk out when you have a great day, head high, kind of that bounce in your step, uh, all those different things. So,
Yeah.
those are positive. Yeah, I couldn't do like, oh, 1, 2, those sorts of things. And I
Yeah.
would always ask staff to do it
It's
forever.
still a visualization, right? No matter
Yes,
what it is that you're looking at.
right. However you can,
Yeah.
however you can picture that. Yeah, what
However
you're.
you manifest it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. What's it look like? How does it feel? That the first audio. Excuse me, guys.
Yep.
Hello.
Um,
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Brad, and it jumped out of my head.
Well, pigtailing on what Terrence was talking about with visualization is, yes, it has to be something personal. And he almost got to say that before the phone call. How do you feel? How does it make you feel? And if it
Yeah.
makes you feel nervous or apprehensive about doing it, it's not going to happen. But if it makes you feel, you can feel it in your gut that this is what's supposed to happen, and you're happy about it, and the staff's happy, the team's happy about it, then it really starts to manifest, and that's when you
Right.
start seeing the changes.
Having said that, don't you think though that to some degree that if you're looking at something and it's filling you with fear, that maybe that's the thing you should walk towards?
Sometimes fear can fuel your fire, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
your uncle used to talk about that all the time. What are you afraid of?
yeah, right. Right. Most of the time that's the case. Whatever you're most afraid of is the thing that's going to help you grow. I'm sure there are times when you're looking at something that's fearful that it's not going to, like a pit bull. I mean, it's not going to make you grow. You know?
Yeah, I heard someone talk about a couple years ago about the buffalo, the bison. Instead of running away from storms, they turn and face it.
They do, they run to it. Yeah.
They run to and you got to be more like a bison.
Yeah. Yep.
I think being mission based and vision based it was important for me too,
Right.
to have that. I've envisioned that every man, woman, and child should be under regular chiropractic care.
Well, I think that's the basis for this whole thing, right? If that's the premise you work from, then it should make the ask easier, right?
Absolutely.
So then what? So then what draws you back? Well, then I guess it's that the fear that somebody's going to say, ah, he's full of crap. I'm never coming back here. But I've got to tell you, that never ever happened with me. Oh, and if it did, there were 10 more new patients behind them, right?
Exactly.
Because the ask had such true intent behind it that how could there not be 10 people behind it?
Right.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. We've always seen that as our marketing increased and we did more things like going back to the yellow pages
Mm-hmm.
and even telemarketing and screenings and things like that. You may not have gotten a certain number of patients from each individual thing, but they came from somewhere. And I think that's basically sending out to the universe that you're here to serve more people.
Right.
And the universe is going to fill that up if you create the space.
Hmm.
But that's why you have to have your team up and running and trained to be able to handle that so that you don't get overrun.
Look, the one of the most perfect examples of that is the time that you and I did that contest
Yeah.
where we just couldn't get to 500, and we had the contest where whoever got there first had to send the other one's family to Disney, and we both got there on the same week.
Same week. That was
Same
pretty
week.
amazing. So
Yeah,
we went to Disney together.
we did. And the crazy part about that is I think we were both around 325, 350, and we went to 500 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
That was the crazy thing. You will talk about intention, right?
Yep.
You want to talk about avoiding the stick. I did not want to send your family to Disney. Not that I didn't want your family to go to Disney. I just did
Right.
not want to pay for it.
Just didn't want to pay for it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think that's driven up. We've been very, very fortunate with our friendship is that has driven us um to push beyond what we think we can do and always trying to strive for better.
Yep. Well, what's funny is Terrence said, we're doing it for others. And that's absolutely the case with me. I mean, I feel the same way he did about, coming home and telling Lisa I had 5 new patients and however many we saw that day. And just, I'd say her giving me encouragement and my tail wagging, that was a bigger thing. You know me, I was never money motivated. That wasn't a thing that was driving me. It was to serve the people. But the instant reward for that was what came from maybe my uncle, right? Certainly you, that's what you were just talking about. I wanted to be able to compare to you, not so much to do better than you. I wanted us both to go up. I
Exactly.
wanted us to
Yeah.
do this. And that would have never happened if we weren't like minds. We certainly don't have the same personalities, but we definitely have our like minds.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. And that I think that's what drew us together in the beginning. That we thought a lot alike.
Yeah.
We bounced a lot of ideas off each other over
Yeah.
the years. We're definitely not, as you said, we don't have the same personality or even the exact same interests.
Mhm.
But that like-mindedness that we wanted to succeed.
I heard Harold Ramis. You know Harold Ramis,
Mhm.
the director,
Yes.
actor. I heard him say once that the smartest thing that you can do is be quiet, listen, and find the smartest person in the room and go stand next to them. And I think to some degree that's what happened to me. I was so young, and then I heard you talking to everybody. Not necessarily knew what you were talking about. Uh, but I felt like, okay, if I'm going to study, that's a guy I want to study with.
Wow.
Because he seems to know everything.
Or at least I told everybody I knew everything.
Yeah.
Whether I did or not, that's a different story.
So it worked out for me.
Yeah.
So
We've had a good run at this together. That's why this is
we're
such
having a good run.
cool thing. Ah,
Yep.
he's back.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No. Hey, at least my video didn't cut out today. I drove to my cousin's house. He's got Wi-Fi.
There you go.
You're gonna have to get one of those super Wi-Fi boosters or something.
Dude, I've tried everything. I tried a satellite Wi-Fi. It didn't work. The Starlink, Elon Musk Starlink.
Right.
It's not even available where I live. So
Get him on the line.
can you do that for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well, that's good. No, I think the new
Yeah.
patient thing, again, it's that happy balance of getting them, but keeping them, right? But you also have to get a lot of them to get good at keeping them. That's still the other part that nobody wants to talk about is.
Yeah, it's funny. I know at TLC we talked about PVA all the time. It's a big thing. I mean, I like new patients, but if you're not keeping them, then I don't know what you're doing. You're not educating, right? If you're not keeping them,
Yeah, you're not engaging them. Yeah.
yeah, the average, not the average, but the high average, what we call the gold standard there, was the PVA was 100, and most of the guys there that practiced for a while, their PVAs were like at 120. I'm sure yours was too, Terrence. I don't know what
Yep.
yours was. And to me, that seems to be where it needs to be at 100, 120. So,
Yeah, David Singer said that many years ago that 100 was your average, and the average person, what keeps them, what, 12?
14, I think
Or
was,
12 or
oh,
14?
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's not even a pain relief practice. That's just
no.
moving through.
And that doesn't help us.
Uh-uh.
Doesn't help us.
No, you
I'm in a
need,
little bit different situation. Being in a military town, I have a lot of transient patients.
Mm.
They're only here for a short period of time.
Right,
So my PVA was never great, but the good news is I always had new patients coming in.
right.
And that's one of the things we're working on tapping into now is that military referral network through Facebook to try to
Yeah.
make sure that when they do come to town that they look for us.
Right, right.
yeah, I mean, PVA, are you measuring it? How are you measuring it? Are you thinking about it? Do you have a goal for it? The other side, Mike, this, though, the having a high PVA is perilous too, particularly because when you have a high PVA, particularly as you're longer in practice, you're going to have those people who have thousands of visits, right? That
Oh,
really,
yeah.
uh, which certainly drives it. But if and these people do stop, some of them, it's very hurtful,
It
right?
is.
Because you put
Yeah.
your because it really your relationship is pretty deep with them. So it's kind of funny. I understand uh, sometimes people embracing because they don't want to care that much. Because when you have a high PVA, you care a lot and you put your heart into it. These
Absolutely.
people, and then right, they can leave you on a for nothing for $5,
And
right? Or
yeah, or something you said, right?
Or a bad
correct, and you don't
comment.
even know you said it,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So
I know.
it's a slippery slope. I mean, we should be working towards it, but I always say, guard your heart because you'll take a hit. You see
Well,
these files,
yeah.
man.
I always say, and this is an overused word, and I don't really care for it, but it seems to work. I always say you got to be vulnerable, but don't be exposed, right?
Yeah, I would say I was exposed. Yeah, I would freely admit it that I would just be
Me
just
too.
devastated.
Makes us who we are, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I I
we
agree.
Charlie Tremendous Jones or somebody used to always say next, right? Somebody said yeah, next. I was unable to do that.
Yeah,
I
same.
never lost sleep if somebody wasn't getting better. I only lost sleep if somebody had been there for a long time and they just ghosted us.
Yep.
I would prefer them to call and say, "Hey, we quit and here's why." Okay. So when they just kind of disappeared. So Brad and I had a coach years ago who used to say, "You have to care so much you don't care," and I used to call bullshit on that.
Right.
I just never bought into it. I didn't. I am who I am because I care,
Yep.
right? So
No, it's a big part of it.
yeah,
We used to joke that we wanted to start a seminar and say, well, we care, but not that much.
yeah,
So that's more of it. That was a joke between us because we all knew we
yeah,
cared too much. We cared too much.
yeah, yeah.
But that's what'll make you. You'll
Look,
speak the
unless
truth.
you care, how are you going to get up early to make sure you're at the gym so you can get to the office in time before everybody else is there so you can make sure that the energy's right, right?
Right.
If you don't care, you're never going to do that. You're going to come pulling into that parking space like Starsky and Hutch.
Yep.
Doesn't work.
Agreed.
Doesn't work.
Agreed. No, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to try to do something on share a little bit on PVA too.
Okay.
One of the videos, yeah,
All right.
little paper on it. So
Good. Good. I think my next one, because I was around a bunch of chiropractors this weekend and I really didn't hear a whole lot of the power that made the body heals the body. So I didn't hear a whole lot of chiropractic.
right,
So, and whoever was there and is listening, it's the truth. So we'll do a little bit of that.
It's
good,
interesting. I think that's probably the biggest threat to our profession right now is that we don't hear enough of that. Is that it's all about the next new piece of equipment that's going to help alleviate the person's symptoms.
listen, it was the undercurrent was there just wasn't enough philosophy, which is unfortunate because all the scripting and everything that they do is principally based. It just wasn't spoken enough. You know as well as I do that the first night of the seminar, I could almost always walk out and say, "All right, I can go home. I
Right.
got what I needed," and maybe not even in the room, but being social. So where was I?
I
So
think that speaks to what really drives success, and that is your intention and purpose
yeah,
for providing the service. If you get too procedure oriented without the sense of purpose of changing people's lives, of connecting man the physical with man the spiritual, um, all the procedures in the world is not going to create that energy.
I hear sometimes, not in that group, but I hear sometimes that, people get all blustery about philosophy. And I'm like, well, I just don't know where you go or how you could do this thing if you're not philosophically sound. You're gonna have a philosophy. How about if you choose it, right? How about
Correct.
if you participate in it, right? And then on top of that, in order to express that, you better know what your worldview is, right? You better know where you stand inside of that. And I
Well,
don't know
plus
how
some
some of these younger
introspection.
guys,
Yeah.
I don't know how some of these younger guys are going to know this unless we push it on them.
Who's out there telling them? I mean, we had your uncle, we had
And a
Sid,
lot of
we
those
had
guys.
Jim Parker. We had a lot of people out there telling that story.
Terrence's
Who's the
dad.
next person going to do that?
Yeah. So
I never met your dad, Terrence, so I
Well,
that's a sore spot.
that's
I got a
okay.
picture of myself and Terrence's dad on my desk.
Yeah, that
I
was a
took
good
it from the
picture.
office.
That was a
I
good
only
picture.
spent one night with him, I guess a good 2 or 3 hours. And he left a lasting impression. I know why Terrence is who he is now. So
Thank you.
welcome. So all right.
Well, that's what we're doing this for. Remember that, at least to
Yeah.
Exactly.
out there. And I mean, I'll give credit. I remember, Dean used to spend time talking about what's great in chiropractic. That was one of his good topics.
He still
Joe,
does.
Joe Borio did a very good job. He would always use the science, the
Mhm.
curve, or whatever it might be, papers from all over the place, but linking that, he'd
Yep.
probably spend 2-3 hours
Mhm.
on a Friday night talking about science as it related to
Yeah.
philosophy,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
healing and power that made the body, and
Yep.
every aspect from physics to quantum theory, all the Big Bang theory. That was always a great one. What was before the Big Bang? Who do you think created the Big Bang?
Right.
However, all that and how it relates to us, which is just incredible. And
Yeah.
we need more of that.
Yep.
And
We do.
I'm going to keep saying we shouldn't have to pay for it.
No.
It should
No.
just be out there.
Keep me out there. Yep.
Yeah.
He still does that, and he did it really well inside of the first hour. I think we're just starving for it. The profession is starving for more of it.
Yeah.
It seems like as the research shows up, which it is, we get pulled towards that and pulled away from our foundation, right? So
Well, we
Correct.
get more mainstream, we're more accepted by we're not the alternative anymore, so we don't really have to prove ourselves.
the way I practice was alternatives.
Yeah. Well, I said, for the first 3 generations in my family, it took courage to be a chiropractor because
Yeah, right.
you were going to be mocked for it.
Mhm.
It
Daily.
takes less courage because it's more quote accepted mainstream, like you said, Brad, which kind of takes the edge off that you're, yeah, there's no, there's no edge. There's
There's
no
nothing to
edge to
fight for.
being, yes, there's nothing to fight for. Yeah,
There's no edge, and you know what else there's not? There's no uniqueness, right?
correct.
So
That's
they go
why our
hand in hand.
terminology is so important. That's what
No
keeps us
question.
unique.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's another thing that concerns me about the future of chiropractic right now is getting away from utilizing our unique terminology. Because once you eliminate the terminology, then we fall right into the big melting pot.
We do.
We lose our uniqueness.
So how about if maybe we start there next time?
Okay.
Perfect.
That's great.
Okay.
Yep, because we're at 45 minutes and I don't want to try to cover everything
Yep.
on call. What are we going to talk about next time? So, all right.
All right. I'm going to work on posting some stuff. So
Okay.
Me too.
All right. I
Thanks,
love you guys.
guys.
I respect you.
Love you.
Love you.
And
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.